Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the next episode of the Life Success Legacy Podcast. My name is Chris Bay, and according to some of the comments and feedback that we get from people, our listeners' absolutely favorite thing is when we do interviews with some of our clients. So today we have a fantastic interview person to do, and that's Sarah Vohra. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm so great, Chris. So happy to be here.
Absolutely.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you again for being willing to do this. We have known Sarah since you were in college. I'm trying to think what year you would, sophomore or junior year, maybe?
I think it was sophomore year, pretty young. So,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, 19, maybe almost
Yeah.
20,
Yeah.
something like
So
that.
what we'd love to do for our listeners today is just kind of give the perspective of a younger person, right? Many times we have people that are maybe older, they have families, etc. But you give a different perspective to IBC. So if you would start just by talking about, like, how did you, at your age, when you first learned about it and the connection between your mom and Mike and Pay and all that, how did all of that start?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess just to give some more context, I am 27. So, it's been almost 10 years since I've gotten to know y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I
You
was,
you just you just showed that you're from Texas, right? With
yeah,
your all.
there's going to be a lot of y'alls in here. I meant to tell you on your podcast, you say you guys, which is great, but it's y'all in my episode. So
Yep.
that's so funny. But yeah, I was in college. I was at the University of Texas, so hook 'em.
Yeah.
And I was a sophomore. And I remember my mom, she called me when I was after school and she was telling me about, Mike and Chen. And I had known them at this point because they were my
Mm-hmm.
mom's coworkers. And she was talking to me about some life insurance stuff. And at that time, I was like, I am not interested in this. I am at 19, like focusing
Right.
on so many other things. And when she was describing it to me too, I'm like, this isn't real. There's no way this is a thing. And I think that's where the conversation stopped for a bit. She brought it up again and she tried giving me some of the books to read. And again, I
Mm-hmm.
just was not my priority. And I came home one weekend just to visit my parents. And my mom told me that she really wants to give this a shot, that Michael was really serious about what this could do and was very intentional and transparent about his own financial journey. And she just wanted to give it a shot. I was
Mm-hmm.
young and that's really how it started. So I went to get the medical stuff done. I had no idea what I was doing. I gave my blood for what, and I came back as a preferred member for my insurance policy. And I think from there, that's really the conversation started. I think I became more involved in I think the potlucks were coming around at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where it started. So looking back, I really don't think it hit me what I was doing until honestly more recently, like within the last couple of years. I think that's when I realized how much of an impact it made, but that's how it started, just being
That's
so
fantastic.
blessed, yeah, to have those, Mike and Chen to be my mom's coworkers and for them
Mm-hmm.
to care enough to have this conversation with my mom for her future and for mine. So it's such a blessing how it
And
started.
your mom knew them through school, through being teachers. They all worked
Yes,
together in the
they were
school
all,
system.
all teachers at the same school. Um, and finance was never like the first conversation. I know my mom and Mike were in the same like team
Mm-hmm.
at their school, and it really started there. And I think he tried multiple times to pitch the finance thing, and she wasn't. We talked about it that it's hard to digest, but
Yeah.
he was able to get to her.
And so you were in college at the time, focused on other things,
Yes.
understandably, right? And so when your mom started the policy, she was the owner at the time, correct? And also the payer, and you were the insured.
Yes, that's correct. That was the first policy for myself and my mom.
Yeah. But then over time, that changed where you became the owner, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we kept this policy going, and I don't know if we even borrowed or we took a loan against it in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. I think once I graduated college, I took that over from my mom just because I still didn't understand it at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
because it was my name, I just felt like I wanted to take that responsibility from her and, maybe give her a chance to open one for herself. So I think, yeah, 2 years into it, I took over the premium payments for my
So,
policy.
so you've graduated from college, you
Yes.
got hired, got a job,
Yes.
right? You're doing well, successful, all of those things, right? And so you were in a position where you could take over the payment and the ownership of that policy. So now you own it, it's capitalized, and then you have the cash value available to you.
Yes, I got
Okay.
2 years full of cash value before I started taking over the policy payment.
Hmm.
So thank you,
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yes.
Yeah, and for our listeners, do you mind sharing, like, when you were fresh out of college, like you got a job, you're excited, all tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So when I first graduated college, it was a bit different. I did graduate in 2020, so peak COVID. I graduated college with a mechanical engineering degree, and at that time, just a lot of jobs were taken off. So I knew I wanted to start working out of college, and I was able to get an operations management role as a college hire, which is great. That opened up my world to so much.
Mhm.
Currently, I am a project manager, still not necessarily engineering, but I do get to use more skills from my degree. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And I love my job. I'm so blessed to be able to do what I get to do, the autonomy I get to have. It's such a fun job.
Fantastic. Okay. So now you are the owner of the policy. It has been capitalized and you're fresh out of school and I'm guessing had some student loans.
Yes, yes, a
So
ton
the
of student
question's always like,
loans.
well, how does a young person use the policy? Right. So if you could
Yeah.
share just a little bit about how you use the policy in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give some more context too, I think all of it, again, I don't think I realized how much of a blessing it was until much later. Going into college, I was 100% on student loans. I got some scholarships to support, but I was still mainly on student loans, and that was split between myself and my dad. Um, so graduate college, it's 2020. Thankfully, one of the few blessings from COVID is that they paused the interest for the student loan repayment. So that was such a blessing because I was able to save more. And actually, at that time, I started my second policy. So instead of paying back the student loans that were interest free, I opened up
Mhm.
my second policy to grow the cash value, just thinking to eventually pay off the student loans.
Yeah.
So we're jumping around timelines a bit, but it wasn't until 2024, right before the interest rates were going to be added back into student loan
Mhm.
payments and the pause was no longer there, that I borrowed against my own policy and I was able to pay off in full the amount of student loans in my name. And
Wow.
I think it was at that point I realized, like, well, what a blessing it was to have learned about this process and been able to have a policy, two policies that could pay off of all the student loans at once.
Mhm.
It's yeah, I feel like it's really changed my life.
Are you comfortable sharing the size of your policies that you started? Because people always wonder, like, oh, you have to start these huge policies to pay off something big like a student loan, but really it doesn't require that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we won't talk about the PUAs and everything, but my
Yeah.
very first policy, the annual premiums, I believe, were $2,400. So 2,400, not a small amount of money, but definitely worth the cash value that I got from it. Because of how the percentages was, the cash value grew much quicker. It was a higher PUA at that point.
Hmm. Hmm.
The second policy I opened had a much higher premium. And at this point, because I understood IBC a bit more, we did that intentionally to grow the death benefits. So the second policy, the base premium, I believe, was 5,000.
Okay.
And at that point, that was me opening it as the owner with me as the insured.
Hmm.
And then currently, I did just open my third one in December.
Look at you
Yes,
go.
yes,
Look
we're
at
going to
you
continue.
go.
So the third one, and this one was with Emeritus, my first one with them.
Mhm.
And my base, I believe, was 6,000. So
Okay.
we're going up.
Yeah. Okay.
But like you said, it didn't start out as a whole lot.
No, I mean 2,400 a year in premium, that's a very small policy, right?
Yeah.
We have people who, I always tell people, just arrange. Um, we have people who have started with $200 a month in premium. And then we have people who put in over $100,000 a year in premium and everything in between. And that's where we try to help people to fine tune, like where dial that in where they're comfortable. It doesn't stretch them. Because we always say, look, we should be able to help you get in a better position tomorrow without changing your cash flow. This should not be a painful process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that's something y'all definitely brought up in the first conversations. And I think maybe even for the second policy, I wanted to be more aggressive. Like you definitely have the best plan in mind about being conservative and not letting it affect our day to day. And that's
Right.
been such great advice when I've been thinking about my finances.
Do you ever feel stretched financially, or do you feel like you get to do the things you want to do?
I feel like I get to do the things I want to do, which is, again, it's such a blessing. And I'm going to say that
Yes.
so many times throughout this podcast, but it makes a difference. Um, the stress that people experience or that I felt like I was going to experience with my student loans, looking back when I started college, like it takes a lot out of people.
Mhm.
I think finances can be one of the most stressful things that we all have to deal with.
I just did a coaching session this morning with some longtime clients, you know, and they're much older than you, and they're still dealing with student loans, you know.
Yeah.
So it pays to get started early for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I don't have I don't have kids or any other dependents to take care of. So I was in a position to just focus on myself. And
Hmm.
I know a lot of other people have other priorities and other people dependent on them. So yes, thankfully I was able to get it off ahead of time. But I know that's a really common situation. I even have coworkers that are still, paying through their student loans. And
Hmm.
it's like another thing on the back of your mind. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious for you, when you think about, like, we got to see each other at the last boot camp in Houston, which is lovely to get to see you face to face and get to share meals and spend time together. Um, what in your learning do you think has helped you? And I'm kind of curious, as a younger person who almost in a way grew up with this concept, do you feel like it's been easier for you than maybe like for your mom, who learned some different things and then later on in life started learning about IBC? What has that been like for you in your learning of IBC?
yeah, that's a great question. I do feel like I grew up with IBC just because of how it was introduced to me and how young I was. I think I think as someone who was, a young adult,
Hmm.
still a kid for what it's worth, like growing growing into finances, I think unlearning what little we're taught about finances to understand the IBC method and Nelson Nash's teaching, I think was a lot easier for me as a young person. Because I think as someone, who hasn't gone through a whole lot of um, banking interactions in terms of like mortgages or car loans or having, larger debt for a long period of time, credit cards. I think my understanding of how debt can be used, my mind was changed a lot easier than maybe
Hmm.
someone who just has more financial experience because they're
Hmm.
older. So I think it helps. And my mom, I remember again, we were learning this together. And at some point for me, it clicked just a little bit before it clicked for her.
Yeah.
And I just remember like trying to explain it to her and watching her grasp it. And I think that's such a testimony to what it's like for someone who's maybe a bit younger to be exposed to this early on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easier. My wife would oftentimes say when she would be in boot camps, learning IBC is not the hardest part. It's unlearning all the things that we've been taught, because it is a
Yeah,
different way to think about money for sure.
absolutely. It's there's a lot of trust involved. I know that's something y'all definitely preach, of course. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just think that even again, in the little that we are taught about finance, just from the rest of the world, I think people really hold on to that, even though it's not a lot of information. So when
Yeah.
something like this comes up that not a lot of people talk about and isn't very known, it's really easy to like look at it like it's doesn't work or it's not real or that maybe it's a scam, but
Right.
it all makes sense. And I think to answer one of your previous questions, one of the best things that's helped is to really understand the life insurance company, um, like how that hierarchy works with us as shareholders into
Mhm.
the life insurance company, and how it's we're borrowing against ourselves or not taking a loan against ourselves. I think that really made such a difference in
Yeah,
understanding how IBC works.
that's fantastic. So for people who are learning about IBC, oftentimes they get stuck on kind of the nuts and bolts and the inner workings and those kinds of things. From your perspective, you mentioned that you paid off student loans, and you, I'm guessing, did that through a loan against your policy, paid off some student loans, and
Yes,
then I'm guessing that you were an honest banker in paying that back.
absolutely.
Okay. So can you just talk about, like, was that a challenge for you to pay yourself back? Like, psychologically, you're like, well, wait, now my student loans are gone and I could use that money.
That's a good question. I think that okay, to answer your question, no. And the reason I am confident in saying that is because
Okay.
I had the IBC policies for quite a few years before I paid it off. So
Mhm.
I, if anything, was like, I want this as full as possible, as often as possible when I'm not using it, so that I want to see it like leveled to the top
Yeah.
when I'm not using it. So
Yeah.
for me, I think it was pretty easy to pay off. And then understanding the process again, IBC as a whole, knowing that I'm paying myself back instead of
Mhm.
paying the life insurance or not life insurance, the the
Student
student
loan
loan
company.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
lot nicer because the interest that is incurred from the loan against our policies, it goes back to us.
Right.
You know, so that's even more incentive to pay ourselves back on top
Mhm.
of borrowing against ourselves.
Right. So we always talk about IBC does four things, and I'm thinking about your life and how you've used your system, right? So the very first thing is eliminating outside debt, which you just talked about. You used your policy to pay off student loans. Have you financed anything else?
I have not. I have not. So, my mom gave me her car that she paid off by the time she handed it off to me.
Okay.
I live with my parents, so I'm not paying excess rent.
Right.
So I don't have anything financed, no other loan repayments, nothing like that.
So you're doing right now, so you got the student loan taken care of. Now what you're doing is you're capitalizing your system, what we call your warehouse of wealth. So you talked about you're adding new policies, you're building up your warehouse of wealth right now. Then the third one that we oftentimes, and you can use that for anything you want. Like if you need to replace a car or someday you do a down payment on a home,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you want to do, you have your banking system established. The third one is passive income. And you said you're 27?
27, yes.
Okay. Um, are you thinking about passive income, and have you taken any steps towards that?
I'm absolutely thinking about passive
You
income.
are, okay.
Yes, of course. Going to go back to our best friends, Mike and Pay specifically.
Yeah.
So, similar to IVC, I learned about the snowball method a few years ago, and I
Mhm.
just was not as interested as I was. Recently, I got to spend some time with Miss Pay, and she knocked it into my head that this is something I need to do.
Knocked it into your head.
Basically. No, she it's all with love. So
Yes.
um it's so interesting because, so anyways, just to continue on with that, I am doing snowball. So I have stacks that I'm flipping every month. I have a pretty good stack size because
Hmm.
of my line of credit, which is coming
Hmm.
from my IBC policies. I have a pretty
Hmm.
decent line of credit. And it's beautiful because I don't have, well, I do have to pay interest back, but it is just coming back to myself. So
Right.
I am using my IBC policies to create passive income through the snowball method.
For your future, right? I always
Yep.
like to clarify, like, we're building this for the future. It's not like we're immediately pocketing money in our snowball,
Yes.
right? We're building this for the future. You want that snowball to get as big as it possibly can, right?
Yes.
And then down the line, it really depends on how much passive income you want as to how big you want your snowball to become. So, but
Yes.
you're starting at 27. Oh my goodness. So we have one client who I believe retired before he was 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Do you have hopes of, and I don't want to say retiring, but because we don't like that language, because we still want to have purpose and contribute our gifts
Yeah.
to the world. But when you become, when income becomes a choice and you get to work doing the things that you want to do where you're not dependent on that income, that opens up all kinds of possibilities. Do you look ahead to that? Do you look ahead and say, oh, this is how much passive income I'd like? And if that happens, here are things I'd like to do in my life?
That's a great question. So I definitely I definitely am looking ahead. So it's so interesting because I have thought about all of those different components, but I haven't thought about connecting them in my mind. So,
Hmm.
I've absolutely talked about or thought about retiring early if and when income becomes, like a choice and I
Hmm.
just happen to love what I'm doing. And I've also thought about what a good like passive income number just sounds like in my mind. But I guess yeah, like I said, haven't correlated the two.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to quote unquote retire early. That's one of my goals is to get to the point of financial freedom that, like
Hmm.
you said, like working is a choice. And I do it
Yeah.
because I love it and I find passion and drive in it.
Hmm.
And I'm definitely working my way towards that. But I don't, like you said, I can't just like sit there. There are other things that I want to do once I get to that point. Um, I forget whose podcast I was listening to, but they mentioned that once you get to the point of financial freedom or like financial literacy, that you don't need to work for income, your world opens up in the way that you can put your effort towards what you think is really valuable, towards
Yeah.
your real passions and your drives in life.
Hmm.
And that's just something I really am looking forward to. I don't know exactly what that is yet. I know you and I have talked a bit about what an IBC coach looks like, and that's
Yeah.
definitely something I'm interested in as a young person, but also as someone who I feel like has been blessed by this because I
Hmm.
I remember being a little 17, 18-year old and like, student loans weren't a question. Like that's what I had to do for college. And I I just knew from passing that everyone had student loans no matter how old they were. And I just kind of accepted that.
Hmm.
Um, so if I can show people that they don't need to accept that and that there's other ways for you to like bring good into the world when you're not working just to make money, like I would like
Hmm.
to show people that that's possible. um so you never know.
Yeah. Do you find yourself in conversations with other people, other young people especially, and they kind of look at you like cross-eyed? They're like, "What are you talking about?" Do you find
Yeah.
that young people, your friends, your peers, etc., do you find that they're curious? Are they skeptical? What are those conversations like?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to when I was first learning about IBC, where um, it's interesting, but I didn't understand, and a lot of it
Hmm.
just didn't make sense. My so when I talk to my friends about it, I try not to just bring it up directly because money is kind of
Sure.
a tough conversation. But
Yeah.
and my closer friends especially know that I invest in life insurance, and a few of them have asked me about it. So
Hmm.
I love it when they do, and I try to like slow down and not to go too into the weeds because it's so easy for me to.
Yeah.
And I try to explain like the long-term benefits of it, especially because a lot of my friends are now engaged or married, and like kids are definitely a conversation for some of them.
Hmm.
I try to show them the long term, but I think it is just a hard pill to swallow when now that we're older and we're dealing with mortgages and car loans, like they are adopting the habits that the rest of us work so hard to unlearn. So I
Yeah.
think that's where that challenge comes. Now, for my really close friends that are actually like interested in it, I'll show them the illustration of what the
Hmm.
next like 10 to 20 years look like. And that's what really tends to get their attention is the visuals and the numbers of it, seeing it year over year. I think
Yeah.
that paints such a good picture that I maybe that's the way I have to go about it is just to show them the numbers off the bat. I think that there's definitely interest, but it's just not because it's not a popular topic. I think people are hesitant to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And I will say, and I not just for young people, but people in general, I think the idea that it takes some time for it to grow also makes people hesitate because I know a lot of people want money now, and I get that. I totally get
Yes.
that. But it, doesn't work that way when it's real.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You have attended various types of boot camps and continue to learn and
Yes.
engage. And since you happen to be down near Mike and Pay, you have the opportunity to connect with some of their meetups and potlucks and things like that. For our listeners, from your perspective, what has been the variety of different teaching modalities, learning opportunities, and such? What would you say have been most beneficial for you in your learning?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like that answer cumulatively, all of them have like such a role to play. Um, Starting with like the webinars, I think that as a first sort of exposure to IBC was really great to
Hmm.
learn about the process and to meet with y'all as a team and have
Hmm.
that explained. Um, Myself, I am definitely more of a hands-on or an in-person learner. So the boot camps were really one of my favorite things.
Okay.
I also think you just feel like the passion from the LSL team. And, I think everyone in there, the people that attend have just the shared goal of wanting to be better. So I think it's just such a great thing to be a part
Hmm.
of. The potlucks are also fantastic. I think again, on a personal level, it's great to connect with people that are like-minded and, maybe like I paid off student loans and someone else has paid off their house and we can share what we've done to get to that point. And
Yeah.
and people are willing to be open and transparent if you are willing to listen. So I've been able to learn quite a bit. And I do think the last thing is reading, like between the Nelson Nash book,
Hmm.
Mike's Dibs, and your book. And I know I'm missing a couple. Like I think those really painted such a good picture of what IBC is and how it can change your life. Oh, also, What Would the Rockefellers Do? Highly recommend that book.
That's one of my
I
favorites. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think having that, especially as a foundation for yourself or for myself, made a huge difference going into the conversations with other people about IBC.
Mm. Sarah, this is fantastic. I love having a young person, share their experience. And what's crazy is like you are roughly the same age as my kids, right? And we started policies on them a long time ago. We've signed over ownership to Lily. So, like you, she's using it in
Yeah.
her life, right? Um, we haven't signed over yet to Phoenix. Um, she just graduated in December. And so, we're letting her kind of get settled and all that.
No,
But
that's great.
it's super fun to hear how you just kind of like were in the room listening, and I kind of know what IBC is, but not really. It wasn't really my focus. But then over time, I just want to give kudos to your mom for
Yeah.
having the foresight and the vision. and the trust
Yeah.
with Mike and Pay, and them coming alongside her and you and saying, look, this is an opportunity. And then your mom's heart to be thinking, I'm going to set up my kid, even though my kid doesn't really have interest or know what this is yet, but I'm going to do this for her at a $2,400 a year premium, which in the big context is small.
Yeah.
But the impact that it made was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, definitely shout out to mom. I'll make sure she watches this so she sees we're recognizing her. But no, absolutely. I genuinely, like I've said this so many times, I'm so blessed to be in this situation. And maybe my mom didn't really understand what she was doing at the time, but it's changed my world.
Yeah.
So with my job, I am awarded stock, and I was given stock, as a new hire and year over year with like annual reviews. And I was learning about finance at the time. I didn't touch any of my stock. So by the time that it was 2024 and it was time to pay off student loans, the interest rates were coming back. I finally checked my stocks and I had just enough money to pay off the student loans in my name. And so, like, again, like, what a blessing that I would have been able to do that. But I think at that point, I would have been so stressed out had I not had IBC, because that was my pool of money that's gone like that. And then I'd have to start over from the beginning, rebuild. And, maybe I'm not in the situation I was where I live with my parents and my mom gave me her car. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's changed my life on so many levels. Thank you, mom. But it's made such a difference.
Yeah, I can relate. We as parents, like, everything we want is for our kids.
Yeah,
for sure. I still remember our very first boot camp down in Katy, Texas. And I believe we did it. It was back when Mike and Pay had their Class 101 business, where they would help other parents who were trying to get their kids kind of through that college process. And I remember we were in this room and your mom sat in the very back row. And I remember meeting her for the very first time at that boot camp.
Yeah.
She's such a kind, gentle spirit. I love her. She's great.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. That's so like her for
It is,
her to sit
isn't
in the
it?
back.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sure there wasn't like a full room either. I'm sure she could have sat up front.
And now she usually sits up front.
Yeah.
She's usually up in the front row with
Right
her
up front.
little group of ladies that she comes with. So
yes, all family. And I just want to say, like, it's absolutely mutual. My mom adores you and the LSL team. And I mean, I'm sure you'll have her on one of these, but she feels the same way about how this has changed us. And, we'll talk about it more, but she's got stuff for the grandkids now.
You think she'd do a podcast with me?
I think she would, but I feel like she would want me there. She's a little shy at first, so I might
have to do it together.
Yeah, I might just have to sit behind her and let her speak. But
that would
I'll make sure
be fantastic to do both, to have both of you as guests and just kind of talk about the whole process. So
yeah, get her perspective on it. That'd be great.
Sarah, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Your story is really important for people to hear. You give a different perspective, having been a young person who inherited a policy, but now you've taken this and the learning and you are just shining with it. So congratulations and kudos to you.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate y'all's support. You guys show me so much love and have given me so much confidence in myself. Like, it's truly, truly changed my life, and more to come.
Absolutely. It's really fun to be in the cheering section watching all that you're doing. So thank you. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Anytime.
To our listeners, thank you again for joining us at the LSL, Life Success Legacy podcast. Check out our website, lifesuccesslegacy.com. We have lots of learning resources there. We have a learning kit if you like to learn on your own. You can contact us, reach out. We have webinars, as Sarah mentioned. We have boot camps. We have books, all kinds of learning opportunities depending on what your learning style is. So please check us out. We'd love to have a conversation with you, and catch us next time on our Life Success Legacy podcast. Thank you.